It's spring now. The earth has reawakened and sprung forth with great new life, gifting boundless supplies of medicinal herbs and opening the door to near endless crafts once again. Needless to say, we've been fairly busy here. Between settling into our new home and balancing the excitement of getting to craft once again with that of the wilds, there hasn't been much time for stillness. But that's what this season breeds. Winter is a time to slow down, reflect, and catch your breath. Spring is a time to bound forward with newfound energy, a time to allow the brighter days to inspire and the sweet scent of the air to carry you through them. For the first time since winter began, as with every year that comes to pass, I'm beginning to find balance within myself and the seasons, perfectly timed, finding rhythm in our new home and the reawakening of the earth. This year I've begun a new herbal love affair, if you can call it such, with nettles. Nettles are a beautiful yet biting early spring medicinal and magical ally. They are a strong plant, rich with iron and many other nutrients that help us to regain energy after the winter months. I'm quite partial to drying them for later use in teas, but they are wonderful when added to stews or other edible preparations. Though take care to avoid their sting. They have a nasty bite that will remain with you for the day if you don't manage to avoid it. However, after they've been dried or cooked, this is no longer a problem. Beyond nettles, I've once again been able to be reacquainted with many of my favorite early springtime herbs. Here I have some red buds, lilacs, cherry blossoms, crabapple blossoms, violets, and dogwood flowers. My mom is currently in town visiting, and as I wasn't able to make it back east as I had originally hoped for this spring, she brought me out a ton of my favorite early spring blossoms. I've been really missing a lot of these guys. Even though I can still get my hands on a few of these out here, they don't feel the same, and so it's really special to see them and to get to work with them again. For the most part, I think I'm just going to dry the herbs, save for the violets and the red buds. Red buds make a very delicious springy tea that I really enjoy, and it just kind of tastes like home to me. So I'd recommend trying that if you have any growing around you. I also want to try to make some violet syrup. I don't think I have quite enough violets for what I tend to like to craft with violet syrup, but I can certainly make a smaller batch. Taking the time to dry herbs has always been a part of my regular rhythm of life. It's a practice that helps me to connect to the energy of the land and current abundance, while also granting the opportunity to work with the plants for an extended period of time, as the dried herbs will keep for many years to come, retaining their beauty as well as their medicine and energy. Drying the herbs is also a practice that helps me to still my heart and mind, and to take a moment to appreciate something so simple yet so powerful all the same. There's so much beauty in this task, and it's the first step to most all of my favorite workings. long-held tradition of mine at this time of year is to craft violet syrup. The process is meditative and once again beautiful. Now just to let this set overnight. I received a couple of requests on my last video to see the kitchen, and so I figured I'd give you guys a little tour. It's pretty simple. There's not much to it, but it's a little more cabinet space than we have been accustomed to, which is nice. And it's still certainly a work in progress. Still figuring out where everything goes. There's the dog food. And just kind of a general clutteriness right now, but it's coming together, and we finally have a gas stove, which is wonderful. I've been missing cooking on gas stoves. The appliances are certainly a little bit old, but that's okay. We can make do, and they definitely serve their purpose pretty well. But things are coming along, trying to figure out all the funny parts about not having a lot of counter space by the stove, but I think we're getting it all to come together slowly. Once we're able to get everything unpacked and it starts to feel like home here, I'll do an apartment tour for you to show you how it's laid out, how it works. Still getting it all figured out though, and I want to wait till it's almost perfect to share it in full with you. But I do really like this kitchen. There are a lot of things about it that function really nicely, and I like that it's closed off from the rest of the space. It makes it easy when you haven't done dishes, you don't have to look at it, and it's nice to kind of just have a little bit of separation. I've had a lot of more open concept spaces lately, and this just feels much nicer to me. Plus there's space to add details to the walls that I really enjoy, and I finally have a place for all of my strange antique collections that I have, and it feels nice. It looks beautiful. It's much better and darker than I thought it would be, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the final product will turn out. I also decided last night just to set the red buds to dry, so they are sprinkled about the table. Not the most ideal situation for drying, but it'll certainly do. To craft violet syrup is simple yet exciting. Even though it's purple in color, the final product gives a flavor that is sweet and green. It makes a great way to taste the gentle nature of the season, and a wonderful thing to make purely for the joy of doing so. It's deep blue now, but once it's been cooked down a bit, I'll be able to add in the lemon juice, which will bring it kind of close to this pinkiness of the red buds, and maybe a mix of that and the original purple that it was. It is absolutely stunning. Definitely a little bit lighter than I'm used to making, and it will probably be a little subtler in flavor, but I think it'll still be really enjoyable. And with the addition of lemon juice, it transforms like magic to the most beautiful shade of violet. These past 2 weeks have been the first in months that I've been able to film as much as I've wanted to, and the first that I've been able to post and share and engage with my passions with consistency, and it just feels really, really good. Last month I finished the manuscript of my book, and I still have a little bit more work to do with that before it's all finally complete. I just heard back from my editor and we'll be getting to talk with her tomorrow about finalizing that stuff and getting more of that on the road, but it all feels a lot lighter now. And I think with this mix of the new season, the new home, and really getting to reconnect with my passions, my work, and all of these things in a way that really makes me feel good has brought a lot more inspiration to my days. I always feel like I'm able to come into myself at this time of year, and maybe that's the brighter light, but there's always just this refresh and reset. And I think that that is kind of what this time is about. Winter is a time to set back, rest, reflect, so that you can begin again in the spring. And I really truly believe that. And the more I've implemented that in the way I walk through the world and walk through my life, the better I've felt. It gives me a more consistent rhythm. And so to have all of these new beginnings kind of falling into the same point of this refresh of the season just feels natural and right. And it's really allowed me to feel a lot more refreshed. I still have a ways to go before I fully have come into that new fresh energy, but I can feel it and I can see it, and it's just brought a lot of joy. What's your experience this time of year, especially for those of you that exist with such distinct seasons? It's been strange to me living here in a place that doesn't have as distinctive seasons as I'm accustomed to, but there still is that shift. There still is that reawakening, and I just find that there's a lot of power in that. But I'm curious what spring is for you and what this does for your energy this time of year, or inspiration, or any new projects, or anything that you're excited about. I know right now I've been very engaged with what is out and about in the wilds, and I wonder if that's similar for you, or if there are other things that pique your interest at this time. Often I get really inspired by your all's insights, and I could use some of that now. Like I said before, we are almost all the way settled in here. Still some more unpacking to do, but it's really just the extra knickknacks and details and all the extra stuff I've accumulated over the years. But the space is starting to kind of fall into place. All the big pieces are there, and my plants are in place, and it is slowly starting to feel like home. In my last video, I mentioned briefly why we're staying put, or well, staying put in the Northwest as opposed to going back east. And I thought I would reiterate a little bit because I had some questions. Over the last handful of months, we have been trying to set up rentals, and I even tried to buy a house, and everything continued to fall through. Most people said that they didn't like how young we were and didn't want renters that were as young as us. And we had a couple things fall through because both my girlfriend and I are self-employed. And though we can prove more than enough income for rentals, it does make people a little bit more uncomfortable. And ultimately, finding apartments is much easier than finding a home to rent. For whatever reason. But we kept running into obstacles, and it got to a point where we were running out of time. I needed to get out of the cabin. It was getting to the point where we weren't going to be able to stay there anymore, as my grandmother lives there come the summer months. But we weren't really finding any options out east where we wanted to be. So on a whim, I looked and found this place, and it just felt really right, and it was so easy. And it felt like a sign that something needed me still here, needed us still here. I'm still working on figuring out what that is. I have a couple of ideas on what I think it could be, but I want to spend a little bit more time sorting through that before I talk on it more. But I definitely will share that journey and what I'm figuring out with that here with you guys. I always think that getting some extra perspectives on these things can really help. And I know that times are weird, and I am young, and people are always a little funny about those things when it comes to renting places. And we are in a queer relationship, and we did have a house fall through right after the owner found out that we were both women. So, of course, things like that are much easier out here. But I felt like there were just more hurdles than normal. And so I'm just gonna take it as a sign. I wonder if any of you have encountered stuff like that before, or what ease you've found or easier solutions you've found to moving. We are going to stay put here for a little while, but eventually I do want to head out east. And if anybody has any tips on getting rentals with single or sole proprietor, self-employed stuff, and also queer relationships, I would really appreciate that, because we have not had the best of luck with that unless it's through people in cities that are a little more comfortable with people. So thank you if you have any insights on that. But all in all, even though it has been a struggle to figure out all of this stuff, it's been a real learning curve, and I've been able to re-examine life and figure out what is most important. And that's been really helpful, I think. I've spent a lot of time unpacking all of these arenas of life, and I will definitely get into this with you all soon. I still have a lot more that I want to work through before I share it, and there are a lot of things that I do think I'm going to keep for myself. But it's been a very interesting time, a lot of growth and renewal, and it just feels good. It feels like the right time to start all of this. One chapter's come to a close, and I'm ready for the next. And now that we are almost all the way settled, it will be time to start adventuring again and really discovering all of this new stuff. What's keeping me here? What's keeping us here? And what else do I have to learn here? Because I think there's a lot. Anyways, I could probably ramble on and on about this for hours and hours. So I think I will leave this here, and I will see you soon in the next adventure.